Okay, so the brake light came on in the van. So these have a sensor per pad, so it should tell us which one it is. Yes. What do you mean no focal? Oh, because there's nothing wrong with the ABS. Okay, it's done. It looks like it actually found a code for my sound system. I don't know why. And it's not showing anything for the brakes. So it must just be a dummy light. It probably, if any of them break, it just sets your light off and you go in. That's unfortunate. You'd think with all the new technology and CAN and stuff like that, that they would at least tell you which pad it is. So if you had something go bad, you know, if a sensor was bad, the pads were fine, you know which one to replace. So this is pretty fucking sweet. So there's this little tool, right? This is to get the caps off, to get to the lug nuts. And I found apparently there's a wheel lock kit. I don't know what the hell that means. So maybe I do have wheel locks and I didn't know. I've never taken the wheels off this car. I only took it in to get tires done. So yeah, wow. So maybe I have some spare lugs and some grippies. But look at this. They use the spare tire well for the subwoofer. So I always wondered, I was like, this thing, you know, it hits pretty good. It's got a pretty good little stereo in it for not having a sub, but apparently I do have a sub. It's got a little speaker in there. And I think it's ported and stuff, and it just straps down, and then it plugs in right here. So yeah, I wonder if that radio malfunction thing is when they unplugged this to put the spare on when I had a flat. So that and these things that thing's scary. I'm not going to go nearly as fast as I have in the past on that. Okay, so this is I mean, it's a little dirty right now, but this has only seen one Michigan winter. It looks so good under here. This is why you buy a car not from the rust belt. Now, I'd imagine you can even see some spots already that are there's a little bit of rust at that well, a little bit of rust right there. All it took was a year. Well, I haven't even had it a year, so not even that long. Just one run in Michigan. None of this stuff had any of that when I picked it up, so better sell it quick. Anyway, there's a little bit of a lip, but really not much at all. I went ahead and measured it, and we're like right at 32, so we're gonna go ahead and we'll reuse these rotors. It's gonna get new pads. I'll check the rear I'll check the rear and see if those pads are worn as well. Probably just do all four at once, and then when it goes through another set of pads, do rotors. So, and that on these things, that only takes about 20,000 miles, and then you go to pads again because they're so damn heavy. Okay, so I got pads ordered for the van. That reminded me that I don't have fronts for this either, so ordered front pads for the Jetta. Ordered the upper shock mounts. I couldn't find the lowers on the crappy store. So worst case, absolute worst case, we'll use those poly lowers. Hopefully we won't hear them squeaking away. Yeah, I gotta imagine that I can just get them locally too for pretty cheap. We'll see. So it's hard to stay motivated. Like, it's just hot out, it's gross, but I think if I get the fan on, aim it at my floor area, and just start getting to work. I've got 2 hours until I need to leave. That's how it's going to be all week, is run the kit in, come back, get some stuff around, work for 2 hours, maybe 2.5 max, and then it's off to the old JOB. So yeah, we'll just stick with it, see how much we can get done. Make sure I have plenty of time to take a cold shower and cool off and eat lunch. That way I can be fresh when I go in. So here's what I do to weld nuts together. I've done this a few times. I've never had problems with it. Is I'll put them both on and I'll tighten the top one until they touch. And then I like that they line up. So then I'll back it off just a tiny bit, because you don't want it binding on the bolt. Right, you want the bolt to slide in and out freely and then be torqued down evenly in all the threads. This kind of guarantees that within the slot that's there. So pinch it in place. You can see there's a tiny gap, but we're going to go all the way around the outside of this anyway. Yeah, we'll do both of these up, and we'll pinch them in the car and get them in place. Okay, so I was leave them on the floor to cool off. Don't get all excited and pull the bolt out, because the threads in the middle where all the heat from the weld is, you know, that stuff's expanded, and the rest of the bolt's a different temperature. So you're making a very minor change to your thread pitch. It's going to feel real similar to some of the sizes where you put a SAE bolt into a metric fastener and it feels right, and then all of a sudden it's kind of tight, and then some people just go for it. So don't do that, right? Just let them cool down. They'll do their thing. And same when we put them in the car. They're cooled off, we'll kind of tighten them into place, get them welded on, and just let them cool off, and then they should come out nice and easy. Threads will be nice, keeps everything together. So okay, super ugly welds. So we'll just, yep, there they are, super ugly. Ha ha ha. There's a lot of wax and like shit in there. It's really hard to clean out. So I'm okay with it being not pretty. The only thing it has to do is hold torque when this is tightened down. So now, you know, spacer holds everything square, so we know the head of the bolt's going to be square to the body of the car. And yeah, so like it's in. I can take the bolt in and out by hand. It's going to be structurally sound. Hopefully no one ever sees it, because yeah, they'll just think whoever did this part did it. This is probably hot. Yeah, she's a warm one. Let me get some gloves. Okay, we got her out of there. You can see, let's look up inside. There's some threads. It works. It's functional. There's a little bit of play in the bushings themselves because of the rubber, so you'll just have to be aware not to cross thread anything when we put it back together. It would almost be nice to put the K number up now, before the car goes back flat, so that if something does go awry, we could fix it. But at the same time, I don't want to turn this up and down, so we're going to put the floor in right over that. We're going to trust it, and if we have issues, we'll just have to cut back into the floor, and it'll be sad. Okay, so we just won't get too close. But it's back together, and what a pain, right? What a pain in the dick. I wonder if people that restore older cars have an easier time. You like to think so, because it'll make you feel better about, you know, what you just saw under there. So like the whole inside of that frame rail, or that unibody, is coated in this thick, really thick wax, which is great to keep it from rusting until you need to weld on it. And it's like, I don't know how to remove that other than burn it out, right? So you start welding on the stuff and the wax melts, catches on fire, and it flows into your weld area, and all your clean metal's not clean anymore. So I just powered through it, figuring there's going to be carpet over it, and it's not super structural area. It just covers up that bolt hole, right? It's not the thick spot like on the bottom. So it should be fine. We got a lot more exposed stuff when the floor goes in, so hopefully those weld up a little prettier. But you know, the better it welds, the less we have to grind later, right? Okay, and I gotta leave for work in 45 minutes, so we're stuck. I don't even have really time to clean up, but you know, I knocked down the high spots so that the carpet won't, you know, you won't be able to feel that once the carpet's down. It looks good enough. I'd like to spray some of that chassis coat stuff down in there. I don't know. I don't know how well it's going to work with all that wax, because it's not going to stick to the wax. I think the idea now is going to be that any metal that is still exposed, it would start to rust when we... Where'd that stuff go? This stuff. So you have to get the little hose and you spray it down inside. So when we do bust that can open, we'll do all the spots we want to do all at once. Just get some paint in there, and I don't think it's going to make things worse. It's certainly not going to make it rust, right? It could hopefully stave some of the rust off, and then move on from there. So yeah, hopefully tomorrow I can get the actual seat pan in on the driver's side, the floor pan, and then we'll just start working on this outside part, because we won't touch the interior again until it's upright. Okay, well, the wife's car got jealous of the van, so it's getting rear pads and rotors. Those are pretty shot. The fronts are in surprisingly good shape, but I don't remember if I ever changed those out or not. I had to have, because the car's got like 60,000 something miles in it already, so I gotta imagine that I did the fronts and I just don't remember it. And now she's due for rears. I used to be super anal about changing all four rotors and all four pads you know, for all four wheels at the same time, and it's not. There's a point where on your daily driver, it's not worth it. I'll still do pairs, right? If I replace pads, it's going to be left and right on either front or rear, but especially with modern ABS systems, it just doesn't matter unless you're going to the track. But kid doesn't have to go to daycare today because she doesn't work until Thursday, so we had a nice cool morning to get a jump start on this floor. So I think I want to have this in when I go to work. That would be great. Okay, so I got tacked in place where the circles are, and that looks pretty good. I'm gonna have a gap down there that I'll have to take one of my little scrap guys and just cut a piece, probably off of that opposite rail because it's got a curve already in it, so I can just kind of shoehorn that thing in there and overlap it. So I think, yeah, I think it's gonna work out pretty good. It's not professional, obviously, because they do butt welds everywhere and you wouldn't even be able to tell that a floor was ever put in, but there's that reality check where I'm doing this for me, right? I'm not trying to flip the car and make a profit off of it. I just want something that's not going to fall apart in the next 5 years, which I think this will fit the bill. So plan is I'll get everything kind of wiggled around on the inside and pushed in flat, banged in flat, whatever I need to do, tack it from the inside, come here to the outside, prep all the seams with the wire wheel, and just start laying beads down. And then when we're done and there's a little bit of a hole, we'll decide whether we want to put that piece. We'll probably put that piece on the inside, and same thing, just make it as small as possible, go along the seam, and be done with it, because the bottom will be sealed up nice and coated, and then the top will make sure that any of the lap joints are nice and flat, so that when it gets Raptor liner, it just fills it in and we don't have to worry about it. So that's the plan going forward. Okay, so I'm tacked in enough places that it should stay together. I trimmed a 2x4 to wedge in there to kind of push the floor down, because it doesn't sit perfect, because I'm not perfect. So yeah, but it looks okay. So we'll go around and hit any of the spots that are nice and tight, start welding those first, and then we'll use the motivator to put some other stuff in place, hopefully. Then we won't have to fill giant gaps or anything, but when it's all said and done and painted up, I think this is going to work out great. So here's the perfect example, right? Look at all this wax. All I did is try to do a little bead there. This one came out okay, right? But yeah, weld it along here and then just starts pissing out. These cars aren't made to be restored. That's what it really comes down to. And that's why they're never going to be worth, you know, a shit ton like old classic cars are. Are I supposed to take the whole thing apart sheet by sheet and re-spot weld it together? Well, not a Volkswagen factory. Yeah. Oh well, it's going to get together. It's not going to have one big hole in it. It's going to have lots of tiny holes in it, and we're going to hope that we're able to seal them up so that we get years of use out of it. So I was talking to my buddy's dad before we put this thing together, because he has the nicer gun for the Raptor liner, and you know, his opinion, because the car was had issues, you know, there's a hole down there I'm gonna have to fill in to get it, you know, at least structurally okay and not have to worry too much about it. And he's like, why don't you just glue it on top of the old one and drive it for a few years? And I was like, like I wanted it to be kind of nice, but it's clear at this point that with me doing it and the amount of money I'm willing to spend on it, it's not going to be super nice. Like here, this weld did great, right? Because there's no wax in it. And these are just kind of porous and gross, and this floor is going to be rusty in a couple of years. It just is. It's not going to have a big hole in it, but it's not going to hold up well. So, yeah, I think we already went in way too deep, right? But it's not. I'm not going to take that extra step to turn this into some kind of restoration. That's the direction we didn't want to go in the first place. So we're going to do a bit of a hybrid solution for this. I'm not going to waste all the time and wire and gas to completely seal all this up. I'm going to hit the important spots, get them tacked into place, get this gap down here filled, and then we're just going to go through all the seams with a waterproof adhesive, the same as they would use to glue cars together nowadays. I mean, look at the F-150. It's aluminum and it's mostly glued together. So it's this stuff's really strong. I just got to get the right stuff and make sure that we don't need the right stuff because the welds are holding it together. We just need to seal this thing up with something that the paint and undercoating is going to stick to just fine. That way we have better confidence that it's not going to rust out on us in a year or two. That way we can drive the car and enjoy it for a while. Okay, I've got enough stitching on here that I'm confident in it. It's going to do what it's supposed to do as a floor. It should be stiff enough. It's not like the car's going to wiggle itself apart. So we'll take a little bit of time, clean up some of the stuff I've strewn everywhere where it cools off, and then I think this drawer, we got some stuff. There's a bunch of stuff in here. There's normal caulk, window weld will save. This. I was thinking about this. Elastic sealant for every job. Whoa! Alright, well, it'd be nice to use something that's also an adhesive, so we may have to do a little shopping. I'll see what's going on in this drawer. Maybe there is something we can use. Okay, so I looked at some options, and I think I'm just going to use this up. The only reason I own it, I wanted to convert my dirt bike wheels to tubeless, and I was going to use that stuff to seal the whole inside of the rim up. Some people have used it to do that before. I was convinced by one of my motorcycle buddies not to bother because who cares? It's not worth the risk, sort of deal. So I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. But then I didn't return the tube. That tube was like 16 bucks. So you look around, and the body panel adhesive that 3M makes, it's a 2-part epoxy, which would probably be ideal for something like this, is 40 bucks for 200 milliliters. It doesn't go very far, and you have to go buy their special epoxy gun just to inject it. So we're not going to do that. That's just another step, another waiting for shipping. So I'm going to get that thing in the caulk gun. We're going to jizz up all the holes on the bottom, make sure it's sealed up nice, and then use up the rest of the tube on the interior, just filling anything we can and hoping for the best. Well, here we go. I put a nice bead around everything and then came back with a glove on, just kind of smeared it and made sure that there weren't any just giant bubbles anywhere and that any of the holes were filled. It smells like it's going to work great. People should know what I mean. Like you get some stuff and it just has like that chemical smell where you kind of worry about your health. That's how you usually know that it's working great. So packaging says that 7 days before it's paintable. That's also another good sign. If it was paintable in like 30 minutes, you'd worry about how it cures. So if this has a nice long cure like that, I think it's going to seal this up just fine. Once we get some coats of other products on top, we'll be in good shape, at least for the short term. All right, so hit those 2 spots real quick today just to see. So there's our next hole we got to do something about. It's the pain in the butt area to work on. You can see in those seams there's rust in between. Like this guy was about to explode out, so we'll try to build up. I feel like I should at least put like a plate over it or something. It's just, yeah. It is what it is. It's not too bad working on this side with the stool to sit on, so I can just kind of sit on the cart and on my way down. It's not going to be that bad. And the nice part is, once it gets a coat of that epoxy, I'm gonna order up a bunch more. I mean, this right here is evidence of why you don't put the rubberized stuff on, but I feel like if I don't strip the entire car and do something else, it really is the best choice, as awful as that sounds. So I'll have to order up some more cans of that. I'm sure it's not gonna, those 2 cans aren't gonna do the whole bottom of the car. And at that point, the more the merrier, right? I'll hide everything that we did, and then delete all the videos before we sell it to somebody. Just kidding. Anyway, yeah, I'll order up some more bed liner, not bed liner. Yeah, is it bed liner? Undercoating, rubberized undercoating, garbage material, and we'll spray it all over. But yeah, we're about a week away from bolting things back on. That'll be exciting.